Welcome to Season 1, Episode 14 of PuckHeads Insider Report. My name is Ed Combs. Here in South Florida, my co-host, Peter South in Windsor, Ontario. If you like the show, please hit like. Please hit subscribe. Any questions on your favorite team, send them off to us, puckheadsinsider@gmail.com, or check out our Facebook page, PuckHeads Insider Report. Today's show is brought to you by the Florida Grow House. Are you into fresh, healthy, organic, and delicious fruits and vegetables? Get your own greenhouse. Just call 772-249-2095 or go to floridagrowhouse.com. Get a free quote. And if you mention that this ad on our show, Puckheads Insider Report, you get $750 off. Today's show is one of our biggest to date. We're discussing the Detroit Red Wings today, and we have a special guest joining us, four-time Stanley Cup champion, current head of amateur scouting for the Detroit Red Wings, Kris Draper. He's going to be coming up on our show shortly. Right now, we're going to jump into a whole bunch of stuff, Peter, including an end to not only an 8-game skid this season, but 8 straight losses to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, the Wings looked pretty good on Sunday playing against the Panthers. They had a solid game considering they had some of their top players on the shelf today, but they buckled down, played really good defensively, and they took advantage of the offensive chances they had.
The Florida announcers, I have to watch the Florida feed down here. We're calling the Red Wings game, are you ready for this? A trap game. Like,
well, it's okay. I got the Detroit announcers, and Mickey Redmond was saying the Red Wings need to play a New Jersey game. So
is that what he said? Yep. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's what I was watching. I was watching.
But I mean, did you see a trap? I didn't see a trap.
Oh yeah, they were sitting back for sure.
Okay,
especially in the third period.
Mantha, a healthy scratch, or is he injured? Why did not Anthony Mantha play?
That I'm not 100% sure of. They were going to have a press conference after the game about it, but I'm not sure. I tried to call a couple of sources and never got an answer from them on it either. So I think if something happened, it happened very recently. And just to divert a bit, if you look at the Dallas Stars, they had Anton Khudobin sit out today due to an internal issue. What I've heard is that has been because of he was late for practice yesterday. So I don't know if the same things affected Anthony Mantha or if it's something entirely different.
Well, we're going to find out soon, I hope, because there's been a lot of talk that they've been very disappointed in his lack of defense, his lack of hustle, that he's just not into the games. And this is what you and I have talked about before, is losing taking its toll on these guys. It's got to, at some point, season after season, you got to fall into some type of, what are we going to do to fix this?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want that to become just a natural feeling every day showing up and just, we'll compete, but we're not going to win. They don't have that, we're going to win at all costs attitude right from the start. Although on Sunday they did show that to be, they look more like the Red Wings from a couple of years ago, the team who just made it into the playoffs, but were very competitive night in and night out.
2015, their last playoff trip. Dylan Larkin has stated, how proud he is of his guys. I'm sure he is. And I'm sure he's trying to step up and be that guy. You're going to hear Kris Draper talk about that here in just a moment. Do you see him with the same hustle game in and game out? Do you see him slacking off? Is he that guy? Is he that guy that's going to give you 100% every night?
Oh, I think for sure he's going hard every night. He's proud of that letter on his sweater, and he's wanted to be with the Red Wings since he's been a kid, and he's going to give it all every single night. He's basically saying, "I'm leading by example, and follow me, boys."
I agree. I couldn't agree more with you. I think that Dylan Larkin is, as you're going to hear Kris Draper say, he is a stand-up guy. He's gonna face the microphones, win or lose. COVID has hit these guys pretty hard. You lose 5 guys, 3 of which is your entire second line. how Jeff Blashill is going to manage this, or how he did manage it, was not very good in my opinion. I know it's a big loss when you have Fabry, Zadina, Adam Ernie, John Merrill, Sam Gagne. All these guys are out for significant time. You could see the lack of depth in that team. So what is the missing piece? What does it take for the Wings to carry forward after this win against Florida today, in your opinion?
Well, I think one of the things is they need to keep Giovanni Smith in the lineup. That's kid is showing he belongs. He's a force out there. He had the Gordie Howe hat trick today. He had the goal, the assist, and the fight. He just looked good. He was finishing his checks. He was skating hard every shift. He had a really good game. They need to keep it going with him until somebody stops him, kind of thing.
He reminded me a lot today of an old style game where a Darren McCarty, a Joe Koster, guys out there running around. He doesn't care. Scores a goal. He's got talent. He's hitting. I was really surprised that Aaron Ekblad tried to go toe-to-toe with him. I'm sitting here watching the game going, Aaron, this is not a good idea.
Well, that was actually a point I was going to make. I give Ekblad full credit because he did stand up for his guy that Smith hit. Unlike, I was very disappointed in the Red Wings response earlier in the game when Helm got hit, and basically nobody came to his defense at all or stood up for him. So that was one part of the game I wasn't thrilled about with the Red Wings.
I couldn't agree more. There's a couple of things we're going to talk about after the interview that I kind of want to go over with you. Where I disagree about Aaron Ekblad is that's not his job. He's the captain. He's the guy you need on a power play or on a penalty kill on the ice, not sitting. He sat in the box until there was 22 seconds left in the game, 7 minutes. He's not the guy to do that, and especially not the guy to do it with Giovanni Smith.
he's just sending a message to the rest of his teammates saying that, hey, if I'm going to do it, you got to do it. And I give him full marks for that. Yeah, I mean, they missed him on the ice, but I think as far as team development, team building, he made a significant impact today doing that for Florida.
I agree. He did do that. I still disagree on the point that it was him doing it. It shouldn't have been Aaron Ekblad stepping in like that. I couldn't agree more. Of the Red Wings' lack of response to Radko Gudas, I can't stand the guy. He's one of the dirtiest players I've ever seen. I don't know who was on the ice at that moment. I can't remember, but had Giovanni Smith been on the ice, do you see him stepping up right there?
Oh, yeah, for sure he would have. Like I said, I'm shocked that nobody did.
Nobody did anything.
And again, it's like Ekblad. Ekblad's not known as a fighter or whatever, but you still need to defend your teammates. You still need to stand up. And that's one of the big things that's lacking right now, I think, with the Red Wings is that sense of unity. That unity they had in the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, that team stood up for each other, fought with each other, and spilled blood with each other. But they were together. They were a family.
Well, even in the horrible 80s days, nobody touched Stevie. No one touched him. Dylan has gotten knocked around several times today. He got taken out behind the Florida net. That would have never happened when Stevie was captain. Joey and Bobby said, yeah, thanks for playing, but no. He was the cop on the ice. And people, you stand around in front of the net, you turn around and hit the guy, and you see it's Bob Probert, and they leave.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody
absolutely. Yeah.
And nobody's protecting Dylan. I agree. Giovanni Smith needs to be in that lineup game in and game out. Who is he replacing? That's who's going to come out. Is it going to be an Adam Ernie? Is it going to be a Brome? Who's Giovanni Smith going to be replacing? And does he we all know he's a tough kid. We all know he's a big kid. We all know he's a strong kid. Does he have the talent to do what he does in front of the net, scoring goals, besides the protecting part of it? We all know he can do that.
I think he can play an all-around game. He's got some talent for sure. Maybe not the softest hands, but he's going to cause a disturbance in front of the net. And as long as he continues to work harder in his defensive game, he'll assert himself into that lineup. There's no doubt about that. Ed, you're talking about how the Red Wings can keep things going. And maybe that's kind of one of the silver linings in this COVID type season for the Red Wings is the fact that they do have a taxi squad. As we know, the days of the coach walking into the room with a couple of bus tickets in hand to send players down, those days are gone. You can't take guys who've been in the league 5-6 years and all of a sudden send them to the minor leagues and bring somebody up. But now with the taxi squad, you actually have, as a coach, that luxury to do that. And it's starting to be done throughout the league. You're starting to see some big names relegated to the taxi squad and other guys brought up for a game or two just to send a message.
And hopefully that message will come across to Mr. Mantha if in fact he's not injured and he was a healthy scratch. If he is injured, we all obviously hope he is all right. We do get a lot more Red Wings hockey to talk about yet, so don't worry about that. Also, we have a lot of other hockey to talk. We're going to bring that up as well in just a few minutes. Right now, we're all going to welcome in 4-time Stanley Cup champion, current head of amateur scouting, former Detroit Red Wing all-around great and grindliner Kris Draper to our show. He spent 17 of his 20 seasons here in Detroit, and he is going to join us for our show today. Thank you so much, Kris, for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
So we got a lot to get to. I'm going to jump right in here, Kris. We're going to start off with a big one, my friend. Is there any truth to the rumor you are either being considered or are considering the vacant job as general manager in Pittsburgh?
I might have read the same article you did. That's really that's really the extent of it. And I had a couple people ask, obviously when a GM vacancy comes up and if my name is tossed around, obviously it's an honor to be in consideration for that. So that's kind of really, where I'm at with that right now. Obviously, love being part of the Detroit Red Wings. Like you said, I've been here since, 1993, played all the way up until 2011. And then from 2011, moved into the front office. So everyone knows that, my heart is, is with the Detroit Red Wings. I'm, an opportunity, to work with Ken Holland, to work with Jim Nill, and now to work with Steve Yzerman is something, I realize how fortunate I am. So, right now for me, it's, that my name is out there. Like I said, it's an honor, but, my loyalty and my job is certainly to the Detroit Red Wings.
All right, Kris, as director of amateur scouting and leading a department of 16 amateur scouts, can you give us an outline of what your job entails, especially during a normal hockey year where it's being played everywhere? And how do you go about disseminating all the information that you are provided with?
Yeah, obviously we're in very unique times right now, just like, everybody going through this with the pandemic. So first off, hopefully everyone is safe and healthy with everything that's going on right now. But for me in a normal hockey season, and I guess I really, as director, I haven't had a normal hockey season because last year was my first year as director of amateur scouting. And as everyone knows, in March, not only, the sporting world and the hockey world, but the world itself, was stopped. And, but with that said, there was still a draft in October. So for me, and I can go from, just kind of being part of an amateur staff since I've retired, I get over to Europe. Obviously, my job is to watch, probably, I would probably say the top 50 or top 60 players that we feel have potential to be Detroit Red Wing prospects, Detroit Red Wing picks. So I kind of go all over the world to watch these players and watch these prospects. Last year before the pandemic hit, I calculated up, I was 64 days over in Europe, and I probably would have had another trip over to Europe. Last year, the U18s were supposed to be in Plymouth. Otherwise, that's another trip over to Europe. But for me, it's, gathering, a lot of information throughout our amateur staff, in communication with them. Now, obviously, with what we're doing right here with Zoom, we use, Microsoft Teams and obviously have a lot of calls with our scouts, and just talk, who's playing well over there, who do our, area scouts like, and then it's up to me to follow up with them and start watching them on video. So I've been doing, a ton of video over, probably almost the last year, of watching all these players. And it's it's hard. You're watching these players on video. There's nothing like getting in and watching live hockey games, but that's what every organization has to do right now. So that's really what my job is. A big part of it is communication. And I'd like to think that amongst our staff we have very good communication. And the one thing I always talk to our scouts, if there's a player that is really starting to climb and is playing well, just let me know. And obviously I want to start tracking these players and start watching video. So that's really what my job is, getting in order of our draft list and what we're going to do. And like I said, that's what I did for the first time in October, running an amateur draft. And I think it was a great experience. It's with where we're at right now with the Detroit Red Wings. Obviously, I realize how important my role is, and I keep reiterating that to our scouts about how important what we do is to rebuild this franchise.
Rebuilding this franchise is right now, I know, the number one priority. Detroit's always been known, especially since probably the late 80s into the early 90s, is they want players overripe. That's kind of been their philosophy since especially your era, where you guys always had the big guns in there. So everybody that was drafted could play a lot, whether it was in juniors, whether it was in Grand Rapids, you could get them overripe. You've got players right now that are kind of on that cusp, and we're trying to figure out how far away are they. You got Dennis Cholowski, Michael Rasmussen, Evgeny Svechnikov, who's injured again, your draft pick, Lucas Raymond. So these four guys, how far are they from being able to take that next step? Moritz Seider is another question I'm going to ask you about. I know he's injured, but when it comes to Cholowski, Rasmussen, Svechnikov, these guys have been here for a little while now. When are they going to – Michael was just sent back down, but when are these guys going to be ready for that next step?
Well, a lot of it has to do with them, to be honest. Obviously, I think, in Rass's case, he's had some opportunity to play. I thought it looked like he was asserting himself, more physically, getting in on the forecheck, trying to finish checks. He's a real good net front presence on the power play. I think that's something that, he has to continue to improve on. You look around on power plays now, and you always want to try to have that big body net front. And I think Rass has an opportunity to do that. But with that said, there's some things that he certainly has to work on. And I think when you start talking about, Dennis Cholowski and obviously Svech, it's unfortunate. I mean, this kid, he's an unbelievable kid. He rehabbed his injury last year. He was ready to go, and then he gets hurt, in training camp. You really feel bad for him. He was really excited about it. We know that he put the time in to get himself, physically and mentally ready to go, and then just kind of has a freak injury in training camp, and he's all banged up right now. So I would say with those three guys, Dennis as well. Dennis is, great skater, puck moving D. I think the one thing that we'd like to see him add to, the type of player he is, just a little bit of bite in his game. It's obviously, we understand what these players are, but the NHL is obviously it's a hard game, and you have to learn, as a defenseman, you have to learn how to box out. You have to throw some cross checks around. You have to be able to take sticks at net, those kind of things. And I think Dennis is continuing to work on that. But there's some things that he has that you can't teach. He's a great skater. He's a very good first pass D-man. But he's going down there and instead of, kind of coming, into the Detroit Red Wings and maybe playing 10 to 12 minutes, he has an opportunity to go down to Grand Rapids, play in every situation. We want him to play 20 plus minutes a night, and then the thing that I always remember from Ken Holland is when we call these players up, we want these players to be ready, to help the Detroit Red Wings. We want them to come up and we want them to be a part of the Detroit Red Wings, not for, 6 to 8 games, but we're looking at 6 to 8 years. And, that's something that we want those guys to do. We need those guys to really come in and start, pushing some of the veteran players out. And, that's how a rebuild starts, kind of looking like, okay, we're in the right direction when some of our younger players, some of our younger prospects start coming in and taking jobs. Obviously, you touched on Moritz Seider. He's obviously injured right now, but he's been having a great year over in Rogla. Like we're really happy with what we're seeing from him. Unbelievable kid, character kid. I mean, it's fun to kind of check on social media and seeing some of his big hits or some of his plays or some of his goals that he's been able to score in there, and everything of why we wanted him to go play over there has come to fruition. He's just, he continues to play a lot of minutes. Rogla's coaching staff and their franchise really love this kid. They have a lot of great things to say about him. So we're really happy with obviously the development, in the way they're going. Rogla's one of the best teams in the SHL. He's going to get an opportunity to play a lot of minutes down the stretch when he gets healthy, and then certainly into the playoffs and that stuff that is obviously, those are the experiences that you want to get. And then Lucas Raymond, he's gone from last year, watching him in Frölunda of, kind of being some nights the 13th forward and second power play unit to first power play. His development, we're really excited about with where he is. I think he's a real competitive kid, competitive hockey player. He has hockey sense. He has skill, very smart player. And the thing that, Dan Cleary, Sean Horkoff, and Nicholas Cronwall, who run our player development staff, every time they talk to him, they come away with a prospect that just wants to continue to learn and really just burns for the game. It just sounds like, everything that when we talk to these guys, he just has that inner drive. And that's something that, certainly excites, all of us. But, he's in a great situation. Frölunda is an unreal organization in the SHL. He's getting a lot of ice time, a lot of minutes, and his development is certainly going in the right direction too. So when are those two going to come over? Mo will be, when the season ends, he'll come over to Detroit. Lucas Raymond, not sure, right now what the plan and the path is for Lucas Raymond.
Joe Veleno and Moritz Seider, do you foresee them both in the lineup in 2022?
We hope so. And like I said, I think a lot of it, comes back to, to the player. And I think, we're talking about the right mindset with these players. I think these kids, they want to be NHL players. They understand it. I mean, it's, for Moritz, not as much, obviously going back over to play in Europe and Sweden, but, Joe Veleno is, he's from Canada. He's a Quebec kid. And, he could have just kind of, said, you know what, I'm just going to, I'm going to kind of train. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to wait for the NHL and the American League to start up. But, we presented an opportunity to Joe to go over there, and he jumped at it right away. And, that's something that excites you. You have a young hockey player that wants to play hockey, and he went over there, and I think it's great for him. I think it's an opportunity. I mean, when you look back on it, it's going to be an unreal experience for him to be over in Sweden, to experience, a different culture. The SHL is obviously a very good league, and it comes back to the same thing. He's getting quality minutes, and he's playing in a competitive atmosphere, and it's an opportunity. It's a different language, all this stuff, and I think the maturation for these guys, I think it's a great thing for them. So we're happy with all our young prospects that went over and played in Europe or certainly from Europe and are playing well.
How are they dealing with COVID there? Like here in North America, Canada has parts of their area on lockdown. Michigan, parts of that area, I don't know if it's all still on lockdown. Florida's wide open. Windsor's on lockdown. How is it over there for them? How is it up there for you, for everyone up there, as far as being prepared? I know you've had a few guys out of the lineup. When are they back? Are they back?
Yeah, we had, obviously we got some players back for the Tampa game. Sam Gagne came back, Ernie came back, Merrill came back. So we ended up getting some players back. Obviously, we still have to get Zadina. So those guys, are certainly coming. And that's, when you start taking out Fabry as well, when you start taking out, 5 regulars of our lineup, it's hard. And I think, these guys come back, from 10 days to 2 weeks off, obviously with quarantine and making sure that you have to go through all the NHL protocols to do that, and then you kind of kind of get thrown into the wolves playing against the defending Stanley Cup champions, Tampa Bay Lightning. The guys they've been fine. I mean, we talked to, I talked to our Swedish scout yesterday, Håkan Andersson, but there's no fans, no scouts allowed in the games. It's the same thing. Yeah. They're not allowed to go into rinks. The leagues are, the teams are playing. I think they're going to reevaluate it. I think it's middle of February. So about a week to 10 days out, kind of reevaluate the situation and see if scouts and maybe some fans can get back into it. But right now the hockey's being played. So to be honest with you, they're doing exactly what I'm doing. Any of the Swedish prospects, they're watching on video as well. And it kind of goes through, to some of them. We have some scouts that, can get into areas in Finland, kind of throughout Czech and Switzerland. Russia is open. Our Russian scouts allowed to get in, to all games live. So, we have an Ontario scout that there isn't any hockey, obviously, to watch right now. You get into, Western Canada, same thing. Those leagues aren't playing. So Quebec League is, they're back up and running. Mainland Quebec's playing. So, but no scouts allowed in buildings. They're watching from video as well. And we're hoping that the Maritime division in the Quebec League can get up and running as well. And for me, I'm in Bloomfield Hills, and really the league that I've been following a lot, and there's been a lot of players that have kind of left Canada to come in is the USHL. They're up and playing and playing every weekend, and they've done a fantastic job. So that's pretty well where I've been, almost every weekend, I'd probably say for the last 6-7 weeks, watching USHL hockey. The development program is back playing. There is some college hockey playing right now. Michigan's on pause. They were supposed to play Tuesday. That game has been postponed, but I'm hoping, over the next week or so that Michigan will get back playing. So yeah, for me, I mean, I look at a month, I put my schedule together, and I might end up going to that game, and I might obviously have to kind of change on the fly depending on what happens with COVID. So right now it's moving targets, but we're doing the best we can.
We're going to switch gears on you a little bit right now, Kris. And I want to play a quick game of name association with you. I'm going to give you 10 names, and I'd like you to respond with the first thing that pops into your head. You up for it?
The hot seat. Yeah, I hope I am. Let's see.
All right.
Yeah.
The first thing that pops in your head, Darren McCarty.
I'll just go grind line. And I got one other thing. Stanley Cup winning goal, 1997.
Yeah, against the Flyers.
Yes.
Scotty Bowman.
Brilliant.
Steve Yzerman.
Unbelievable competitor.
Peter Forsberg.
World-class player. Hated playing against him.
Dominic Hasek.
The Dominator. One of the most competitive players I ever played or practiced with in my life.
Claude Lemieux.
Hit from behind.
Vladdy Konstantinov.
Amazing teammate. Tragedy.
Nick Lidstrom.
Norris Trophy. Multiple.
And finally, Pavel Datsyuk.
The Magic Man.
Is it true you are the one who gave them the Euro Twins?
It is true.
That is awesome. That is the greatest name ever. Dylan Larkin. Was Dylan Larkin always the first choice to wear the C?
I mean, to me, and obviously I can just give my own opinion, in the way that this team was going in the direction that we were moving, yes. Obviously when you think about, Dylan Larkin and the story of, growing up here, playing amateur hockey here, in Michigan, playing at the development program, going to the University of Michigan, being drafted by the Detroit Red Wings, growing up a huge Red Wing fan. And you know what? And probably the most important thing, it's something that he really wanted. And in a time where it's not easy to be the captain of the Detroit Red Wings, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of microphones. You have to answer a lot of questions. You have to be a stand-up guy. And Dylan Larkin obviously made it clear that, he was ready for this. So I would say yes. We kind of felt, or I kind of felt, that Dylan Larkin, was going to be the next captain of the Detroit Red Wings.
Stevie has always talked about a plan, to be patient for a plan. He did not want to name a captain before this season because he didn't want it to bear down on any single player without naming who the captain was going to be. that they were going through a lot of changes. That team is just not ready yet. How is it affecting your core of players who've been there, the players who have come this season and last, who are new players to this organization? Everybody you ever talked to who has ever played for or been around this organization has only one thing to say: class act. Always. How are they dealing with what is going on last season and this season? They know the people he brought in, you guys had to think you were going to have a better start than you're having now with 2 wins.
Yeah.
How do you think it's affecting them?
First of all, I don't know how it's affecting them. Obviously, with protocols, I can't be around the rink as much as normal. So it's different. I'm kind of have to watch from afar. Obviously pick up the phone and have conversations with both Stevie and Pat Verbeek, and even with Sean Horkoff and Dan Cleary as well, and kind of talk about the team. Kirk Maltby's a pro scout. I talked to Maltz today probably for about 45 minutes. So a lot of conversation with him, but I don't know how they're dealing with it. I was very fortunate to never have to go through something like they're going through right now as a player. I always kind of, say I'm one of the luckiest players to play in the National Hockey League. I'd show up to training camp. We were always, as a Stanley Cup contender. Did it work out all the time? No, but it obviously did work out 4 times, and I was in the final 6 times. And so I can't understand. I can't comprehend what this group is going through right now. But I know, one thing is you have, Bobby Ryan wanted to come to Detroit. He wanted to be a Detroit Red Wing. I think that's something that is obviously really special when somebody wants to do that, knowing the history of the organization and original 6. You pick up the phone, you get to have, a phone call from Steve Yzerman, and obviously, that means a lot to anybody in our organization and certainly in the hockey world. Dylan Larkin is a guy that obviously, he kind of wears his heart on the sleeve, and it has to be hard. Tyler Bertuzzi, the way, that he plays, gritty, greasy hockey, and then, like I said, when, we didn't really have a bad start. And then unfortunately, COVID, hit us, and then we had to kind of hit up our taxi squad. And the one thing, when you're in a rebuild and you have to rely on your depth, and your depth isn't, as probably as deep as you would want it to be, that's kind of why we're in this situation right now. So I don't think it's really fair to judge the Detroit Red Wings right now on what the team is, because of because of the COVID protocol and really not having 5, of our starters. It's, for a lot of teams, there's, 5 players are out, they're not playing. We ended up playing, through this, and now we're starting to get some bodies back. So I would have to say, I guess in my answer number 1, these guys, they're professionals. These guys are, they're wearing a jersey that means a lot to everybody that puts it on. And I think when you walk in that rink and you kind of look up and you see around what the Detroit Red Wings are, it means a lot to be a Detroit Red Wing. And obviously right now it's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's got to suck. It's got to suck losing. I mean, that can't be any fun, at all. But, this is the group right now. These guys have to dig in. They have to rally around one another, and they have to find ways, to have, small moral victories. And I believe that they will. And I think a big part is getting some of our players back and getting them healthy and then kind of see, let's kind of see where we're at. So we're on a road trip right now. We got another one in Tampa, 2 in Florida, 2 in Nashville. And, these guys, this is the team that has to dig in and start winning hockey games.
Couldn't agree more. I followed this team, Kris, since Gordie Howe's last season. I've been in the Olympia. I've been in the Joe. And I actually flew home to see a game at Little Caesars, so I could say I've been in all 3. I followed Stevie's career when he was with Peterborough, before he was even drafted by Detroit. I watched the body language of the 80s. I was one of the fans in the stands holding up the sign that said the dead things. We were frustrated fans. Best thing they ever could have done. was Mr. Ilitch buying the team and the fans not showing up and forcing their hand to make a winner. And that's what he did. I've never seen body language like I'm seeing this season, even back in the Stevie's early part of his career when this team was awful. Their body language didn't show the frustration that you see in the last few games that I see. And maybe I'm wrong. Tell me, am I wrong? But they just look dejected on the bench. They look frustrated on the ice. And it just doesn't look the same. Is that something in the room? Is it something only I'm seeing? You're the head of scouts. So you may not, I don't know. You talk to these guys. Tell me I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I'm going to say one thing, and I probably said it a couple of minutes ago, that losing sucks. There's, obviously on that, so that's the one thing that's, I want to hit on. But the other thing is, I thought, early, in the season, I was at the first couple games against Columbus. I thought that there was some pretty good energy, playing and playing a pretty good team too, when we were watching that. Now, it's now all of a sudden you see where they're at. You see, obviously taking some players out, like last night's game, before you're even in last night's game, it's over. When you lose to, Tampa Bay, it's, 3 goals in, under 4 minutes. I mean, that's, that definitely is not a way that you want to start a road trip. That's not a way that you want to start a game. But, these guys, like I said, the one thing, these guys are, they're pros. Their job is, to make sure that they're prepared and ready to play. The body language, I can't relate to where they're at right now, because like I said, I didn't go through that. And the one thing is, when you show up to the rink and you lose a hockey game, it has to be hard. It has to sting. You want to win. That's, you play the game because you want to win hockey games, and when all of a sudden, and I'm just going to come back to it, when you take out 5 regulars of the Detroit Red Wings, like obviously it's going to be a battle to win. And, but for us, we're just hoping that, we got hit with COVID, the bug kind of hit. We actually battled through it. You have to give these guys a lot of credit for doing that. Obviously staying, within the NHL protocol and playing when you can play. And that's exactly what they did. And now we're starting to get, some healthy bodies back. So, for us, I'm not going to judge this team on that little body of work of what happened, because of the fact of we did have so many. I mean, you take out 5 players on, 5 regulars on a lot of teams, it's going to be interesting to see how they react as well. So I'm going to
you guys lost your entire second line. You guys lost your
so I'm going to kind of spin it the other way and just kind of say, let's just wait and see, of how these guys are. And like I said, the most of they got to find a way to win a hockey game. And when they win a hockey game, then hopefully you have something, to build on. And like I said, these guys, really, they just got to kind of go, day at a time, game at a time. And that's really what their preparation should be.
One of the hot topics of in the NHL right now is the Rangers with Tony DeAngelo. Bob McKenzie wrote up a little thing and said that Detroit may be a landing spot for him. What do you think of what he could bring to the club if he came? Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's somebody Steve's looking at? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, there's no sense talking in hypotheticals. It doesn't really make sense for me to discuss that. What does Tony DeAngelo bring? Last year, he was 4th in scoring amongst all D-men. That's something. Obviously, he's a guy that can run a power play. But that's that's something of he's the property of the New York Rangers right now. So it's not really fair for me to comment on that situation, on what's going on with Tony DeAngelo and the New York Rangers.
Okay, I got one more for you. You won 4 Stanley Cups, as we touched on earlier. And Ed and I can only imagine the emotion that goes with winning those cups, as it's the hardest trophy in sports to win. But my question to you is, which of the 4 stands out to you the most?
And I've heard a lot of people say this. It's almost kind of like picking a favorite kid. our favorite child. The one thing that I know, and I'm sure you can both relate to this, the fact that the Detroit Red Wings, were in such a long drought of winning Stanley Cups. When we won in 1997, I think that was a Stanley Cup victory, not only for the Detroit Red Wings, the Ilitch family, and the organization, but for all Detroit Red Wing fans, because of obviously what they went through, for so many years. And even, for my period, from the time, obviously 93, 94 was my first year, and then won the Stanley Cup in 96, 97. But, you don't forget, we lost to San Jose in Game 7 at home. We got swept by the New Jersey Devils in 95. 96, obviously, we lose to Colorado, which obviously started, one of the greatest rivalries in all of professional sports. So there was a lot of failures before we, for me, and you go back to, especially Stevie, what Stevie went through. And then all of a sudden we win the Stanley Cup in 1997 at home, probably as an underdog. I think a lot of people kept talking about the Philadelphia Flyers. They were too big, too strong, and we were too European. And next thing we kind of turned that around, right in Game 1. And I think all of a sudden people were like, you know what, these guys might be pretty good too. So I think for me, it was amazing to win the first one, just because of everything that I said. And then in 2008, when we won the Stanley Cup, my daughter was born on May 22nd. My youngest daughter, who's now 12, she was born on May 22nd. She came home May 24th, which was Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals against Pittsburgh, and then obviously we went on to win the Stanley Cup. So I was able, to win the Stanley Cup with all 3 of my kids. So I think when you start talking about them, I can tell stories about all 4. Very emotional, very exciting. It's something that I'm so proud of. But I'd say the first one, because of everything that our organization had went through, and then obviously it was really special in 2008 with having Kennedy and Keenan with me in Pittsburgh, and then obviously my newborn daughter.
I can't thank you enough for doing this, Kris. I really can't. I really appreciate it. I hope if the opportunity presents itself that we would love to have you back on our show once again. My final question, sir, has to do with you and the absolute pride you must feel after having a team you spent the better part of your life with draft your son, Keenan, in the 7th round. Do you see him donning the winged wheel in the future, wearing his dad's number 33?
Well, yeah, thank you very much. That was obviously, a real special moment for myself. Keenan, I know the one thing with Keenan, just his work ethic and his love for the game is something that I'm proud of, that, we've been able to share that, and you know what, in the, we're sitting there and we're in our draft room, and you're kind of starting to go down and names are coming around and you have names on the wall on the list, and Keenan's name was on that wall for us, and he earned himself the opportunity to put himself in that situation. He played at St. Andrews College last year. He had a real good season. And then it was, when I, talked to, our staff and look, when you kind of start getting in the 6th and 7th round, you start really relying on your area scouts, and, our scout in Ontario, and then even at the start of this year, our scout out in Western Canada, has seen Keenan play. He gets, he's 6'2", he's 195 pounds right now. Obviously he eats an apple off dad's head, and, so I'm super proud. I really am. And it's, it's pretty, it's obviously something that, means, so much to him and obviously to me as well. Like you said, an organization that means so much to myself, but same thing with Keenan. He grew up in Joe Louis Arena, being in the locker room and probably, he understands, what it is and what it means to be a Detroit Red Wing by being around, dad for as long as he was. And it's, it was a true honor and a true thrill and something I'm real proud of. He obviously knows, how much work he has to do, but I'm real proud of his passion, his work ethic, and how much he loves the game. And that's something that certainly meant a lot to me, come draft day.
Thank you, Kris, very much for this. I do really appreciate it. Before you go, I remember where I met you, 2003 with Art Regner. I was just starting my radio career, and I was in the little teeny tiny room behind the bench doing a pre and post game show against Montreal, banner raising day after you won the cup in 2002. And I was in the locker room talking to everybody. In fact, your goalie, who was a huge controversy from Toronto. Cujo. Yeah, and that turned into a mess. So, yes, that's how I met you. Really, seriously, my friend, thank you so much for doing this, Kris. It was an honor and a privilege to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Always great to talk hockey. Thank you very much, guys.
Yes, thank you. And he's going to put a bug in your ear at some point so I can get maybe a player or two on our show.
All right.
Thanks, boss. Thank you, guys.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you soon, Kris.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Yep. Bye-bye. Talking to him, Peter, is absolute a joy. I had so much fun in that interview. The guy is nothing but A1 class to take the time out of his, what has to be a huge busy schedule.
Oh, yeah.
To sit down and spend 30 minutes with us. Well, actually, the interview was way longer than that. Yep. By the time we edited it down and got everything ready. What a guy. What a great man for doing that. Thanks for setting that up. That's all Peter did that all. Thank you, brother. That was absolutely amazing. Let's jump into some more Red Wing conversation, shall we? How long before Tyler Bertuzzi returns to the lineup? He is currently out for the entire 6-game road trip. He is out due to COVID protocols. He is likely not to return before the team gets home because he can't fly commercially, even if he gets well. So do you know, is he out because of COVID protocols, because he has COVID itself? How big a puzzle piece is he to this lineup, in and out?
Well, I'm not sure if he actually has COVID, but, the protocols are very wide ranging. You fall under that quickly. But like you said, the fact that he can't fly commercially limits him. But I guess if he is truly fine after, the 4 days, and he gets tested and he gets a negative test, I guess he could jump in his car and meet the team in Nashville or something like that. So that could be an option. But he's a big piece. There's no doubt. I mean, he puts the puck in the net for the team. And, he's got 5 goals already for them. So, I mean,
and he's a gritty player. He's a very gritty in your face player. He kind of reminds me of a Kirk Maltby kind of get under your skin kind of player. I think Kirk had better hands, but when it comes down to that grind, that push, he reminds me a lot of Kirk Maltby. Right now, we're going to jump into our segment, I Bet You Didn't Know. Today's segment of I Bet You Didn't Know. How many Gordie Howe hat tricks, because of Giovanni Smith's Gordie Howe hat trick today, how many Gordie Howe hat tricks does Gordie Howe actually have? Is it A, 2? Is it B, 3? Is it C, 4? Or is it D, none of the above? Gordie Howe. How many Gordie Howe hat tricks does he have? Peter, can the Wings pull it together after a win like this to salvage a season? At what point does it hit the room with these guys and the losing? I mean, are they going to be able to, in a shortened season like this, pull something together? I'm not talking make the playoffs, but I'm talking salvage some type of resemblance of a team.
Well, I think that will be told on Tuesday night when they play the second half of this back-to-back against Florida. They had a great outing on Sunday, but Tuesday's game is going to be the telltale, how they respond, and it's up to each player to come out and show that Sunday wasn't just a flash in the pan, that they can play like that, play in a system, and give all of themselves for the whole 60 minutes.
Well, here's a good question for you. I want to see if you know the answer to this. When was it? Before today, Thomas Greiss gets his first win as a Detroit Red Wing, his first win in 10 games with the team. Before today's win, when was the last time a goaltender got a win in Detroit whose name was not Jonathan Bernier? I'll give you a minute. When was that?
I think it was
when?
Back last February, wasn't it?
October 29th of 19 of the 1920 season. His name was Jimmy Howard.
Jimmy Howard. I know it's Jimmy Howard.
That's the last goaltender to win a game that's not Jonathan Bernier. That's a long time ago.
Yep.
So congratulations to Jonathan Greiss. They were talking today on the Florida feed about how he was hard to beat as a Florida team. And they played the Islanders, I guess, in the playoffs one year, and he was very solid taking them out in that year. Do you see him getting some confidence from this? Maybe springboarding him to a few wins in a row? And when is Jonathan Bernier coming back?
Well, Bernier's under the COVID protocols too, so it's Greiss's net right now to basically to lose. So it's an opportunity for him to show what he's got, and maybe convince the Red Wings coaches that he is a number one guy, not a 1A 1B guy.
Let's get to our answer for our I Bet You Didn't Know. How many Gordie Howe hat tricks did Gordie Howe actually get? Now, for those of you who don't know, and we probably should have premised this in the question, a Gordie Howe hat trick is a goal, an assist, and a fight in the same game. It's a goal, an assist, and a fight in the same game, and that's what Giovanni Smith did today. Goal, assist, and a fight. So how many Gordie Howe hat tricks did Gordie Howe actually get? Is it A1, B2, C3, D, none of the above? Peter?
Well, Giovanni Smith is halfway there because the answer is 2.
Never understood that. Gordie Howe has a hat trick named after him, and the man only had 2 in his entire illustrious career. I know he's got the sharpest elbows in the league, but
yeah. It's just one of those things that stuck through the years. Yeah.
Who has the most?
Brendan Shanahan, I think, or Rick Tocchet and Brendan Shanahan are both right up there.
Yeah. I thought it was Brendan Shanahan, but I don't know. You had brought up Rick Tocchet earlier when we were talking, so that's actually pretty cool. Other things we got to touch on here. I want to stay in this game here briefly. Wings break an 8-game skid. They also break an 8-game skid against Florida. Greiss gets the first win in 10. First win as a Red Wing, but something that really bothered me in today's game, and you know how sometimes, especially during a hockey game, I can come unhinged. I lost it. I don't like Radko Gudas to begin with. I think he's a cheap shot artist. I'm not saying the hit he did on Glendening today was cheap by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not. What I am saying it was a shoulder hit to the head. Not only did no Wings come to his defense, neither did the freaking referees. There was no penalty on that. Yet, the exact same hit by Giovanni Smith on Uyghur, he gets a 2-minute penalty, 5 for fighting, obviously, because of the fight when he and Ekblad went at it, for Ekblad coming in to stick up for Uyghur. I get that, even though Ekblad shouldn't have been the one doing that, especially against Giovanni Smith. We have discussions back and forth, and I get the refs missed the game, but missed the call on Glendening, who, let's make this a valid point as well, from that hit, did not return to the game.
Yeah.
But to me, the guy with the puck, how did 2 referees watching the frickin' play not see him get hit in the head?
Well, like I said, Ed, sometimes a player will skate in front of somebody. Sometimes they'll just outright miss it. But I guess the other point that you have to realize is the hit on Glendening was an open ice hit, whereas the hit on Uyghur was against the glass. So with the fact that Uyghur went into the glass, I think that's what caused the referees to call the penalty there. And being an open ice hit with Gudas, I think that's why they overlooked it.
I get into the glass. I get where the helmet came off. I get both players were hurt, but both players went down in a heap. That just irritates me to no end. That just drives me up a wall where a guy with the puck is skating up the ice and 2 referees in a freaking game don't see him get hit like that.
Well, it's because they're not watching. They're not watching on the TV like you are, Ed. They're right.
Well, I've been a referee, Peter. I've been a ref in a game, and if you got 2 refs, we were always trained that guy behind the net is watching the puck or the play. The guy at the top of the blue line is watching everything else. So if you got one guy watching the puck, I'm sorry. Ed, you and I are going to argue about this all day.
Yeah, 7-year-olds are easy to follow, Ed.
again, I would like to allow the listeners to make that call that you are an ass, as I recalled earlier.
Yep.
All right, let's jump into some other hockey news here. We got a whole bunch of stuff to get to. As of Sunday, there is still no movement with Tony DeAngelo. Have you heard anything about what's going on with him? Have the Rangers gotten bites? I mean, there's rumors all over the place that teams are reaching out. I don't see it, but what do you think?
I'm hearing the same, that there's just, there's interest, there's teams kicking the tires, but everybody wants to cash in on a fire sale right now. So that's why nobody's going to pay the piper on this one. So
and then New York's going to want a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, he's a former fourth-round draft choice. I mean, yeah, he's a player. There's no doubt he's a player, even as Kris Draper alluded to in our interview. So that's for sure.
Dallas Stars sit Anton Khudobin on Sunday due to an internal issue, which some have said he was late to practice on Saturday. Is there any truth to that? Is it play? Is it as simple as being late?
Rick Bowness is quoted as saying he doesn't have a lot of rules, but when somebody does break one of his rules, he's going to damn well come down hard on them. And that's what he's done on goaltender Khudobin. I mean, they didn't even dress him and sit him as a backup. They went with the third goalie. So Khudobin didn't even dress it on Sunday. They lost the game to a very, very hot Chicago team who won 2-1 in overtime. And that Blackhawk team is surging right now. We'll have to talk about them a little bit more next week.
Yes, we will have to, definitely, because they started out like a midget team, to say the very least. AHL finally kicked off their season this past weekend, except for the Canadian division, because of the province of Ontario. It has not given their blessing yet to let the Toronto Marlies and the Belleville Senators play. The whole division is on hold so far, but word from the AHL is if they can't get an approval early in the week, they will have Toronto and Belleville play on the road indefinitely just to get some games in. What have you heard? What is the direction you can see? Do they cross the border, both teams, and play in the U.S. all year?
No. What they'll do is probably go out to either Quebec or Alberta and play out there, or even Manitoba, because it's all government right now. This is the holdup. Is the Ontario government's holding this up? They've only given permission to play to the NHL teams, Toronto and Ottawa. Other than that, there's no sport going on in Ontario, which also affects, which we're going to touch on, is the Ontario Hockey League. They have not come up with any date at all yet of a possible start. That's going to be very troublesome too, as the other Canadian junior leagues, the Western League and the Quebec League, are planning to move forward.
How is it going to affect in the Western League? We only got 2 of the 4 divisions playing. The American division, which has 5 teams, including the Everett Silvertips, Portland Winterhawks, Seattle Thunderbirds, Spokane Chiefs, Tri-City Americans, have all been given the green light to start play, but not until March 19th. The Central Division, which has teams in Alberta, Canada, can begin play February 26th. The league is still awaiting approval for the British Columbia Division in the Eastern Division, which has teams in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. How does that affect these guys when it comes to late in the season, teams having played more games than others, players being groomed to move or move up? How does that affect all of that, and playoffs?
Yeah, it's best to say it's a mess. They're trying one piece at a time, obviously, in the Western League, because it's so spread out. I mean, you're covering all the Western provinces and 2 or 3 American states. And so the American states have got their ducks in a row. They can start. But like I said, it's not until the middle of March. Alberta has always been pretty good about getting the games going. That's where one of the bubbles was, of course, in Edmonton. And they played the World Juniors out there. So they've got the COVID protocols, in place. But so much depends on the government of each province and, how they want to play it. I mean, so far, going back to Ontario, the lady who's making the Minister of Sport, she's playing hardball right now. And, basically she's the one who forced the Blue Jays to go to Buffalo and forced the Raptors to go down to Tampa. So, I mean, it's been tough sledding in Ontario for sports.
Before we get into the Quebec League and the bubble and what's going on in the ECHL, what Kris brought up about the draft and seeing players. What do you see happening? I mean, so many of these kids can't play. How are they going to get looked at? I've even heard different people talking that they could have skipped the draft altogether and have an 18 and a 19-year-old draft the following year so they can see all these guys play. Do you see that?
No, I don't see that, but I do see there's so many issues involved right now, and the fact that there's so many players not playing. Now, a lot of the kids in the Ontario Hockey League and the other leagues, the Western League, have managed through their agents to get themselves over to Europe so they can play and be seen. But obviously, that's not all of them, and it's important they get seen. I mean, after our call the other day, I was talking to Kris about the 3 kids in Michigan. He's less than an hour away from Ann Arbor, and he has yet to see those 3 guys play live. I mean, he's seen them on TV and video, but he hasn't seen them live. I fortunately have, but that's one advantage I do have, but it's hard on all the scouts to just go by video. It makes it extremely difficult and a bigger crapshoot, that's for sure.
Well, it's going to make his job 10 times harder. He's the head of amateur scouting for an NHL franchise. The man can't go see these kids play to know who he's going to draft. I mean,
that's right.
That's got to make his job very difficult. I do not envy his position at all.
Well, the only thing is all the other teams are in the same boat. So it's a big crapshoot for everybody. So it's going to make it tough.
Is this going to affect Seattle more than anyone else, or no?
Yeah, it'll definitely affect Seattle, but Seattle's more groomed about stocking their team now, whereas the amateur draft is more for looking down the road, other than, the first top 3 or 4 picks who can come in and immediately help right away. But, Seattle's big draft is the expansion draft, and that's what they're looking at more. They're probably doing everything they can to see as many players in these games going on right now in the NHL.
The players Stevie picked up for this season, do you see him using any of them as unprotected bait so that he can keep who he has, or does he want to keep these guys?
Oh, absolutely. He's picked up a few veteran guys. Mark Stahl comes to mind, to be able to leave him exposed to protect some of the young guys they have. I mean, unfortunately, it is a business just like any other sport, and Stevie's in the job of building the Detroit Red Wings, and sometimes, that's what you have to do. You're going to have to take a player, a Fabry, like I said, a Stahl, somebody like that, who's you bring him in on a 1-year deal or something like that, or even a 2-year deal, and then you expose them in the draft. I mean, that's just how it happens. That's just
I would hope it would more be a Bobby Ryan than a Robbie Fabry go. I do not want to see Robbie Fabry left unprotected. Let's jump back into some other things here. The Quebec League is going to a bubble-type environment starting next week for 8 days to try to get some games played. The Atlantic Division is in better shape as they are able to play home games. So the bubble, is this like the NHL playoff bubbles? All
kind of.
Playing in one place?
Well, they're going to play it in 2 rinks is how they're going to do it and move the games around. But again, it'll give an opportunity for scouts to see some games, see some players, get exposures. I mean, you got a lot of overage players who are, looking to make an impact and who are late bloomers and the whole bit. So that's why it's important to get these games in.
Finally, the last team to start playing in the ECHL is the Fort Wayne Comets. They're going to start their season next weekend in Wheeling against the Nailers. Finally getting started, getting rolling. On the next podcast, we're going to be talking to Comets head coach Ben Boudreau, his dad, who is out of a job right now. Bruce, do you see him getting a job soon?
Possibly. Maybe not this year, but I can't see him staying unemployed for too long. He's too good of a coach, too good of a communicator not to be back in that league.
With this being Ben's second year behind the bench, the COVID, the late start, everything that's been going on, how do you see the Comets getting ready for the season and to play in the season?
Well, it's definitely been an arduous battle for Ben. I've been talking to him a number of times, there's been so much uncertainty surrounding the whole thing. They didn't find out they were even playing until about 3 weeks ago. He's had players lined up. Now he's, got them in there, they got camp going, and they'll be ready to go. And Ben will give us more insight on that next week.
How long ago was he able to open camp?
They just opened it last Monday, I think it was.
Well, I'm anxious to talk to Ben. I have not actually I've talked to him a few times on Facebook. I think I've had one conversation with him on the phone with you, but I haven't talked to him regular since he was a Flint General when I would see and interview him after games. So that's going to be great to talk to him again. I definitely miss him. He's a great character. He's a great character.
Good.
Yeah.
And he's very detail-oriented as a coach, and the ECHL is another stepping stone for him in his career coaching. I think he's going to be up there like his dad.
You got any guys there getting ready to go to Vegas or Vegas's AHL affiliate?
Hard to say. You'll have to ask him that next week.
Definitely going to do that. Anything else we want to touch on with these Red Wings? I know you were saying that Tuesday's game will be a huge mark to see if they can actually get something rolling. They beat Florida, then they got 2 in Nashville. Do you see them taking 2 in Florida with a team as hot as this team is?
It'll be tough. I mean, it's possible. It's always possible. But it'll be tough. I think Florida's going to come back out, and I know Coach Quenneville will make sure his Panthers are ready for Tuesday night's game too.
Yep, he is definitely a great coach, without question. That's going to about wrap up our show today. Hope you enjoyed it. Please click like. Please click subscribe. You have any questions, please send them off to us, puckheadsinsider@gmail.com. Check out our Facebook page, Puckheads Insider Report. Today's show has been brought to you by the Florida Grow House. Are you into fresh, healthy, organic, and delicious fruits and vegetables? Get your own greenhouse. Just call 772-249-2095 or go to floridagrowhouse.com. You can get a free quote. And if you mention this ad that you've heard it on Puckhead's Insider Report, you can get $750 off. My name is Ed Combs here in South Florida for Peter South in Windsor, Ontario. Thanks for listening to Puckhead's Insider Report, and we look forward to talking hockey again with you next week.